I mean, are we right to say, basically, it isn't a cap, and if you think it is, it's not the most you could ever pay. It's a cap on the rate. So if you use a lot of electricity, you're still going to pay more.
That's exactly right. It's the number that you hear, this £2,500, is based on the average consumption. And if you use more than the average, you'll pay more. And if you use less, then you pay less.
Okay, so what are we to make of the figure itself and how much the price cap would have been if the government had hadn't jumped in?
Well, without this action from the government, it was going to rise to just over £3,500 for this period between October and January. But then it was going to keep going up. And some estimates were forecasting it would be over £6,000 come April. So this step by the government to fix it at £2,500 for 2 years is actually going to save households quite a lot of money.
Yeah, and you've just said it's for 2 years, so we can count on that cap being in place for that long.
Yes, the government has committed to that. For this winter and the next 6 months, households also have the additional £400 rebates that was announced earlier in the year, and that will be applied to each month, either at £66 or £67 per month. So that brings down the bill for this winter a little bit more.
It's going to be very hard, though, for people, isn't it? Because whatever we sort of see is the positive news, the good news from the government on this one, our bills still go up from today.
That's right. And unfortunately, that's reflecting what's happening in the wholesale markets. We have a situation that because of the war in Ukraine, European countries are trying to reduce the gas that they buy from Russia. And Russia's pretty aggressively cut the volumes that it's sending into Europe. And so that gas has to be replaced from other sources. And there's not really enough gas in the world at the moment to fully replace all of those Russian volumes. And that's why prices have gone up so much. This will ease over time as new upstream gas projects come online around the world, but that's going to take a few years, maybe 3 to 5 years before prices go back to where they were before.
So the message to the consumer is, as before, is no matter if the headlines look a little bit more positive, you're still going to have to drastically cut back on your use of energy in order to keep your own personal bills down.
Well, unfortunately, that's the case, yes. I mean, the government can only do so much, and this support it's putting in place, as your report said, is going to be very expensive. In the short term, the government's going to pay for that by borrowing more money, but eventually that's going to have to be recovered through taxation.
I mean, the issue is if you say prices aren't going to get back down to what we would sort of normally expect for 3 to 4 years, and this price cap is only going to be in place for 2, there's at least a potential that in a couple of years, come the time of a general election, it could absolutely go through the roof.
No, I mean, it's not likely to go through the roof. Over that period of time, we'll see prices declining gradually back towards their historic levels as all of these new projects come on stream. So it's not going to be a sort of cliff edge at any point. And although we might see in the short term prices going up because we see maybe disruption to infrastructure, we've seen that in the past week with Nord Stream. There are also some potential for disruption to the routes through Ukraine, bringing gas into Europe. So in the short term, that can have a negative effect. But as we move through the next few years and after the end of this support scheme, prices will have come down. I don't think there's anybody who believes that prices won't be declining at that point. And I'm sure the government will reassess the situation when this 2-year scheme expires to see if more support is needed.